Alright, science fiction fans, it's time for the June book haul. I've got about 50 books to show you today to add to my collection. Now, the first little batch I got, my sister-in-law was in town and my wife and her were out shopping around, and she just sent me a text. You'll never believe what I found. She ended up finding these books for like next to nothing. And what we have here is we have 6 book club editions. Got a couple Larry Niven and a couple of these best of books that I've been collecting in paperback. But I was really excited. These things are in great condition. The first one we've got here is Ringworld. And this has just such an interesting cover. This is a book club edition, you know, in really good shape. So really happy about that one. I think I have probably 5 different versions of Ringworld at this point, but that's the first hardcover I've got. Then we also have Limits by Larry Niven, and this one just has a fantastic wraparound cover that could probably stand alone as a piece of artwork that you hang on your wall if you're into this kind of thing, but it's just a fabulous book. It's one that I think anybody would appreciate just for the cover. Now we've got The Best of Harry Kuttner. And like I said, I have the Ballantine paperback of this one. I have quite a few of these at this point, these book club edition best ofs. I never really intended on collecting all 21 that are in the Ballantine series, but now I think I have over 10. I'm not going to go out of my way to try to collect them all, but if I find them, I'm not going to pass them by. The next one is The Best of Cordwainer Smith. And this one also has some really cool wraparound art. Let's see if we can open it up here a little bit. Show you that. And then probably one of the coolest covers, The Best of C.M. Kornbluth. And this doesn't have wraparound art, but it just has some very, very unique art. Not sure what's going on with this guy, but once me and Richard over at Vintage SF and Matt at Science Fiction Reads have been going through these best of books. We may read them all. We'll see how we go. But C.M. Kornbluth, that's definitely one that's high on my list. Heard really great things about him. Really have not read much that I can remember. And I got to figure out what this picture has to do with whatever story that goes with. And then the next is The Best of Damon Knight. Now, this isn't part of the Ballantine Best of series, but there was other publishers that kind of, Ballantine didn't own the Best of moniker, so you'll see some other publishers that came up with some of these best ofs. This Best of Damon Knight, I think that might be one of the pocketbook editions, but now I have a hardcover of that. Okay, the rest are all paperbacks. And like always, I'm going to start kind of with the ones I'm not totally excited about and try to build up some momentum and finish off strong with some really, really great books. So we got The Lanny People. This one came in a lot that I got off eBay. It's by J.F. Bone. And I don't know if I'll read this. If just go and look up the synopsis of this, maybe you can read the back. I think this has a lot of questionable things in this day and age. It might be a very interesting read, but there's that. A couple by William Tenn, and I believe, he was writing a lot of these stories in the 50s. This is called The Wooden Star. I believe this is a novel. And I haven't read anything from Tenn, never really heard many people talking about him, but I think he's written some pretty important stuff in the science fiction genre. The other one is called The Human Angle from William Tenn, and this is a collection of some short stories, so this might be a good place to start with some, exposing myself to William Tenn's writing and see what he's all about. Found The Best Stories of H.G. Wells. This is a Ballantine book edition. The Cover's in really good shape. There's a little splitting here down on the bottom of the spine, but you know, H.G. Wells, all of his novels he gets a lot of praise for. I haven't read many of his short stories or heard many people talking about his short stories, so I might have to see how that goes someday. And then also got one of these Berkeley editions of The War of the Worlds, and I think almost all of his novels have been done in this livery. And it's, you know, it's a modern reprint, but you gotta love that art. And they're just nice books. H.G. Wells, can't go wrong with him. This one was mostly purchased for the cover. It's called The Crack in the Sky by Richard A. Lupoff. Don't know much about it, but there's just something really cool about that artwork that made me grab this for $1. And, you know, maybe someday I'll get around to reading it, or sometimes I get a comment saying, you know, that book's really good, and then I pop it up on the list. So if anybody knows anything about that one, let me know. October the 1st is Too Late by Fred Hoyle. This is a Fawcett Crest book. Another one that mostly purchased for the cover. I know, you know, Fred Hoyle was a scientist and crossed over and wrote science fiction too, so I am going to read The Black Cloud. I think that's the first one of his that I'm going to be reading, but I think a lot of his stuff is pretty highly regarded. Next we got Fritz Leiber, Change War. And I think this has something to do with The Big Time, which is one that's on this list of the masterpieces of science fiction that I'll be reading soon. If I really like The Big Time, this is somehow like a sequel or loosely based sequel to it. So I found it and I said, yeah, might as well grab that. Next up, Paul Anderson, War of the Winged Men. Another very interesting cover on this one. And Paul Anderson, so far everything I've read of his has been unique and different and amazing. But I know he's written so much that there's a lot of it that's probably slightly below average. I don't know where that one sits, but it's not really high on my Paul Anderson list of reading, but maybe someone will tell me otherwise. Okay, The Mask of Circe by Harry Kuttner. This is an Ace edition that I found in superb condition, and I really love the wraparound paperback art on this one. So there's that. Spider Robinson, Callahan's Legacy. Eventually, the first Spider Robinson book that I'm going to read is one he co-wrote with his wife, Stardance. Probably going to be reading that very soon, and I've heard these Callahan books are just a lot of fun, a little pulpy, a little crazy, lots of unique aliens, all that kind of stuff, but I like, you know, mixing up my reading, and I think I'm really going to like some of Spider Robinson's writing, but we'll just have to see. Next up is a compilation. I think there's only 4 stories in this. It's called Tomorrow One. It was edited by Robert Hoskins, and it's got, I guess, 5 stories. Paul Anderson, Clifford Simic, William Tenn, James H. Schmidt, and John D. MacDonald. And this was one I found for $1, and it's hard to pass up these for $1, and this is the stories that are in there. Okay, and then we got 2 that are from G.C. Edmondson, and these came in a big lot that I got off of eBay. Didn't really know anything about them. Once I looked them up, I realized that they were sequels, or, you know, the first book and then the second book in a series. The first one, well, I don't know the order. I think it's The Ship That Sailed the Time Stream. I think this is the first one. And I was pretty excited to realize that I got both books in the series. And then I looked them up, and the ratings don't look that great, but I don't know. The next one is to Sail the Century Sea. And that one has got a magnificent cover. I wish they kind of matched up the livery a little bit better, but it is what it is. It's got those. Now we've got a few kind of a little bit more modern, I guess you would say. We got Joe Haldeman, The Accidental Time Machine. This is a Ace science fiction book in very good shape. T.L. Sherrod, First Person Peculiar, and this is from Ballantine. This is one I think I got this in a big lot, and I looked it up, and I think it had a really interesting premise or something. Sometimes I'll get these big lots, and a lot of the books, once I look them up, I'll kind of put them into a donating pile or maybe some resale pile eventually, but if they seem interesting, I'll go ahead and keep them for the time being. The Children of Shiny Mountain by David Dvorkin. This is, I think, a slightly post-apocalyptic kind of novel. Doesn't have the best reviews, but this is from Pocket Books as well. And it's in very great condition. And yeah, so next up, Time Master by Robert L. Forward. This is from Tor. Slightly newer. You know, you can usually go by the price. This one was like $6, so probably what, from the 80s? Let's see. 1992. And then I was browsing a bookshop. I got this for $2. It's Gentry Lee, Bright Messengers, and what kind of caught my attention, it says it's a novel set in the Rama universe. And I have all of the Rama books, even the ones that Gentry Lee wrote. And so I said, hey, I don't have this one. Got home, looked it up, and this just, I mean, read the reviews of this one. It sounds like one of the worst books ever written in the science fiction genre if you look at some of the reviews. You know, maybe it's not that bad. I don't know if I'm going to read it anytime, but I got it, so there it is. Next up, Ian M. Banks, and this one is called Fearsome Engine, but it's spelled in a very unique way. And, you know, I read Ian M. Banks, one of the Culture novels, Player of Games, really loved it. I looked this up. It looks interesting. It's a standalone, I believe, so depending if I want to dig back into the Culture novels or kind of read one of his one-offs, I've got one in the weights now. So, and then I've got a compilation. This is the 1990 Annual World's Best SF by Donald A. Walheim, or edited by Donald Walheim. And this is from DAW, really good condition. You can see some of the authors that are in this compilation. And then a couple from Rogers Lasny, Damnation Alley. I think this was like first came as a movie or something, or somehow he got involved in writing either the screenplay or the novel based on it. I'm not exactly sure, but picked that up. And then this, I think, yeah, this is a collection of short stories from Rogers Lasny. It's called The Doors of His Face, The Lamps of His Mouth. And this is from Avon Books, one of my favorite SF publishers of paperbacks. And of course, the signature painted text block of the Avon Books. Okay, 2 stacks, and now we're getting into the really good stuff. This book came in this big lot that I bought, and when I looked it up, it seems like this book is kind of valuable. It's Ringing Changes by R.A. Lafferty, and it's in really good condition. It has a unique art style here. You You know, if you're looking at this, you wouldn't really think science fiction. It is a collection of short stories, from what I understand. Lafferty is someone that I really want to read some of. He sounds like such an interesting character. I have the best of R.A. Lafferty that I'll probably read at some point. There's probably a lot of overlap with some of those short stories and some of the ones that are in this one, but I just love that paperback. Then we've got an Ace Science Fiction special. This is The Witches of Caris from James H. Schmidt. And like I said, published by Ace. I think this is, Richard, he's kind of become a bit of a resource on these Ace specials. I think this is probably, my guess would be series 2, but not positive. And then The Demon Breed by James H. Schmidt. And I think I have a different copy of this, a different publisher, but this one is in a lot better shape. It's an Ace. I believe it's a reprint. And then Time Scoop by John Brunner. This is a very old Dell copy. The cover is in great shape. The spine's pretty good, but the back has a little creasing and a little tearing. It's got the painted text block there, and overall pretty good shape. It came out in 1969, so you can't, someone took care of that for being as old as it is. And then The Puppet Masters by Robert A. Heinlein. This is from Signet, and I've got a few that are in this livery now. And there it is. Love the cover there. Love the artwork. That's a keeper. Okay, Andrea Norton. I never get that right. I know she kind of, I don't know if she intentionally put her name like this to make people think it was a man, because, women were not the most published or read at the time. And, there's all these stories of these women having to use male pseudonyms and everything. This is The Crossroads of Time. And this is one of those little smaller Ace science fiction books. I really like that kind of smaller format. A lot of these get beat up and abused, but that one's in good shape. Now I've got one of my favorite authors, Clifford D. Simic, Way Station. Now this is a Manor Books. Manor Books is probably one of my least favorite publisher. There's just something about them that doesn't really do much for me. This is a fantastic book. If you haven't read that one, you got to read it. I hope to get a better copy. I don't really have a good vintage paperback of Way Station yet, but I'll find one eventually. And then we've got All Flesh is Grass. This one I've read from Simic. Not, his best, but still such a good book. If you like Simic's writing, then I think you'll pretty much like everything he's read. And I really like the cover with the face kind of in the grass there. And then a couple from Norman Spinrad. We got The Mind Game. And this is from Spectra Bantam. And there's quite a few of his books that are in this livery with his name written like that. And I've got quite a few of them now. So this one and A World Between, same livery. And so these are in really good condition, pretty nice spines. So they look good together. Okay, last stack here. Couple from Harlan Ellison. Now these were accidentally sent to me from an eBay seller, and then he just decided to let me keep them. He didn't want me to send them back. One is Strange Wine. It's in really good shape, but someone did, both of these that I'm going to show you, they have contact paper, or I think it's called contact paper on there. I know you can probably remove that, but it has done a pretty good job of preserving the book. There's not a lot of bubbling which can happen, and so for now I think I'm going to leave the contact paper on. And Deathbird Stories. This is on the list of the masterpieces of science fiction that I've been going through. So this is probably going to be the first Harlan Ellison kind of compilation that I read. And this one's from Dell. I should say the last one was from Warner Books. Once again, it has contact paper on it, you can see. Okay, 2 up from Robert Silverberg. Once again, I'm kind of collecting certain authors, certain liveries of certain authors. This first one is called Up the Line. And in this livery, I think I almost have all of the Silverbergs. This one has a little creasing on the spine. But overall, you know, the cover is just in really good shape. Love the artwork. Love the livery of these Silverbergs. And then the Masks of Time. Once again, you know, little creasing on the spine. Someone read this very carefully. But there they are together. Okay, speaking of liveries, Stanislaw Lem. You know, I haven't read anything from Lem yet. There's 2 books of his that are on the Masterpieces of Science Fiction, Solaris and one of his short story compilations. I can't remember. I think it might be the Futurological Congress. I'll have to double check that. But I love this livery. This is from Avon. Like I said, Avon is one of my favorite vintage science fiction book publishers. There's something about them. I just love the way they put these books together. And these Stanislaw Lem books, they can be a little hard to find. I hunt and I don't like to, you know, I'm pretty cheap. I like to find deals. And if you look long enough or have some patience, you can find almost all of these for a pretty good deal. This is the Star Diaries. Really like that cover. And then the last one is Memoirs Found in a Bathtub. This one, like the cover, the spine has a little bit of fading, as you can see. But overall, it's in really good shape. And I'm happy with it. Okay, we're down to the end here. We got 4 left. We got 3 from Philip K. Dick. Galactic Pot Healer. This is a Berkeley medallion. This is a really short one. I might try to slip this in soon. You know, Philip K. Dick's always been one of my favorite authors in science fiction. And eventually he's one that I want to read everything he's ever written. There's a lot that I don't know much about. I've started with his most popular works, and so that one, the concept sounds pretty interesting. Kind of excited to read that. And then Confessions of a Crap Artist. I believe this is kind of memoirs from Dick, talking about the science fiction, you know, kind of, he was in Berkeley and he was writing with Ursula K. Le Guin and others, and I think there's just a lot of interesting little tidbits in this book. So I'm going to have to read that someday. And then The Man in the High Castle, and this one I did spend a little bit of money on. This is the first American paperback edition. It's from Popular Library, issued at 50 cents, in pretty good shape for a book like this. You know, Philip K. Dick, he's one of those authors, when you find his books, people read them. They didn't usually just shelve them. And so it's hard to find Philip Dick books in good condition. So pretty happy with that one. And then this is a book I've been looking for a really long time. It's called We All Died at Breakaway Station, which is such a cool, interesting title, by Richard C. Meredith. Haven't heard many people talking about this. I'm going to probably put this on my TBR for July. I'd been looking for a copy for a long time. This is a Ballantine edition. Finally found it. Really excited to read that. Sounds very interesting. And that's it. So that's the next book haul. Just so you know too, a little heads up, I think probably more in the fall, I'm going to do a bookshelf tour of everything I've got. Right now, my entire bookshelves are all organized by author's last name, you know, in alphabetical order. And while I like that, it's really easy to find the books. I'm thinking about mixing it up and doing a little bit it's something a little bit different. So I want to do a bookshelf tour to kind of capture in time where my collection was at the time, and then I'm going to reorganize my bookshelves, and that's probably going to happen a little bit later in the fall. But other than that, just keep looking for review videos and book hauls and monthly wrap-ups. And once again, thanks for watching.